Hey, what's going on everybody? Thank you so much for checking out today's video, and welcome to the Jonathan Thames Music Channel, where I want to share my love and passion for music with all of you, both as a fan and as a creator. And today I'm going to be discussing music on its most basic level from an educational standpoint to try and provide some helpful information to those who might be brand new to learning about music and who are interested in just now beginning their musical journey. So let's start with the most fundamental question. What exactly is music? Well, according to Google, music is technically defined as vocal or instrumental sounds, or both, combined in such a way as to produce harmony, beauty of form, and expression of emotion. Now, as most of you are probably already aware, sounds are caused by vibrations, and the distance of those vibrations factor in to determine the pitch of the sound. Generally, the longer a vibration is, the lower the pitch, and the shorter a vibration is, the higher the pitch, which is why an open guitar string has a lower pitch than it does when it has a finger putting increased tension on it by pushing it down onto the fretboard, shortening the distance of the overall vibration. And these vocal and instrumental pitches are broken down into notes, which in a musical sense are defined as single tones of definite pitch made by a musical instrument or the human voice. Now, tones are simply defined as musical sounds with reference to their pitch, quality, and their strength. So let's go ahead and take a look at all of our notes. Now, there are 12 notes altogether, but we're going to start off by talking about the 7 white key notes or the 7 natural notes. We use the letters of the alphabet to name the 7 natural notes using letters A through G. So, our 7 main notes are A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. However, in music, it's more typical to start with the C and to work upwards from there. So the correct order of notes would technically be C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back up to the next octave of C. And those are our 7 natural notes. Now, of course, we have the black keys that sit between some of the white keys. So what are those all about? Well, every note on the keyboard is spaced apart by an interval of 1/2 step or 1 semitone, meaning that as you ascend the keys on the board, every note is raised by a 1/2 step, and as you descend the keys, then every note is lowered by a 1/2 step. Ascending or descending movements of consecutive 1/2 steps are referred to as chromatic movements. And whereas the white keys represent the natural notes C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, these smaller black keys represent the notes that exist in the semitone intervals that separate 5 of the 7 natural notes. So if we look here between C and D, we see that there's a black key between them. Because of this, we can physically see that notes C and D are 2 semitones or 2 1/2 steps apart, also referred to as a whole step. The same thing occurs here as we go up the board to D. We can see that D and E have a black key between them and are therefore 2 semitones or 1 whole tone apart as well. 5 of the 7 natural tones are spaced 1 whole tone apart. C and D, D and E, F and G, G and A and B all fall under that umbrella. The notes of the black keys are referred to as either sharp or flat variants of one of its surrounding natural notes, depending on which scale is being played and the rules of naming the notes within that specific scale. So the black key sitting to the immediate right of C can be referred to as C sharp, but because that same key also sits to the immediate left of D, it can also be referred to as D flat. So let's go ahead and use all of these variants to name all of the black keys on the board. We have C sharp D flat, D sharp E flat, F sharp G flat, G sharp A flat, A sharp B flat. Now when we get to the note E, you can see that there is no black key between E and F. So that means that E and F are only 1/2 step or 1 semitone apart from one another. And the same thing occurs here between B and C, which are also only 1/2 step apart from one another. But remember that all of the other natural notes are separated by an interval of 2 semitones or 1 whole tone. So let's go ahead and quickly recap all of this information and then go ahead and name all of the notes on the board starting from C in ascending order. We have our 7 natural notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then we have our 5 sharp flat variant notes, C sharp D flat, D sharp E flat, F sharp G flat, G sharp A flat, A sharp B flat. So all 12 notes together, C, C sharp D flat, D, D sharp E flat, E, F, F sharp G flat, G, G sharp A flat, A sharp B flat, B. Those are all 12 of our notes on the board. So now you literally know every single note that exists for any musical instrument. But is that all there is to it? Well, there are several elements that come together to create what we understand as music. And 2 of the key factors, pun intended, is how the notes can all relate to one another in a musical way to create both melody and harmony. Now, melody is defined as a sequence of single notes that is musically satisfying. Whereas harmony is defined as the combination of simultaneously sounded musical notes to produce chords and chord progressions having a pleasing effect. So knowing how to name all of the notes is definitely a good start, but just knowing how to name them will only get you so far. Because, for instance, if you want to just play some random notes in no particular order or arrangement with no defined structure, then it's highly unlikely to sound musical. Think about the old cat walking on a piano analogy. But also remember that if you play the notes in order of ascension, like this, or in order of descension, like this, then the notes are technically being played in a chromatic movement or in the chromatic scale, which covers every single note on the board. Now, because it covers every single note on the board, the chromatic scale isn't relative to any one specific key. So, what exactly do I mean when I say key? Well, in music, a key signature is any of several combination of sharps or flats after the clef at the beginning of each stave, indicating the key of a composition. And each key signature has its own unique combination of sharps or flats that shape the sound of the scale set. Their role is to basically serve as a map or a guide as to which notes are okay to play, or which notes will relate to one another to create notational melody and harmony within the context of the established key. Now let's talk about another important element that helps to define our concept of music, and that's rhythm. The 3 components most responsible for working together to create rhythm are the beat, which is defined as the arranged order of placed accents or audible percussive hits, the tempo, or the speed defined by a number of beats per minute, and the time signature that the beat and the tempo are arranged within, which is an indication of rhythm that follows a clef generally expressed as a fraction, with the denominator defining the beat as a division of a whole note and the numerator giving the number of beats in each bar. Now, I know this is all a lot to take in, so I won't go into discussing all of the different variations of time signatures that are commonly used, but for the sake of this video, I just want you to be aware that all of these components exist and that they come together to shape rhythm in music. However, if you would like to see more videos in the future that provide more details and more thorough demonstrations centered around some of these different time signatures and rhythmic structures, please let me know in the comments and I'd be happy to get to work on those. When all of the aforementioned elements are present, they come together to derive our next element, which is form, or the organization and structure of a musical composition. So, we learned that melody and/or harmony are created by arranging vocal and instrumental sounds according to systems of notation built within or around different key signatures, and that rhythm is the systematic arrangement of that notation around beat, tempo, and time signature. So when melodies and harmonies arranged in a set key or a series of set keys according to an established beat, tempo, and time signature are occurring, then musical form is taking place. When musical form is occurring, human ears perceive that form relative to the overall blend of each playing instrument's timbre or the perceived sound quality of a musical note, sound, or tone. Now before we continue, if you are getting value out of this video, please hit that like button and please consider subscribing if you don't want to miss out on any of the future musical content from this channel. And if you would like to help support the channel, you can do so by sending a donation to the paypal.me/JonathanTamesMusic link listed in the description below. And in the description, I also have affiliate links if you'd be interested in checking out any of the gear that I use to make all of these videos. If you do decide to purchase anything through those links, I will receive a small commission, which also helps to support the channel, so thank you in advance for that. Now, let's see if we've thoroughly answered our original question at this point, which was, what exactly is music? Well, going back to the definition we found on Google, we said that music was defined as vocal or instrumental sounds, or both, combined in such a way as to produce harmony, beauty of form, and expression of emotion. So from a technical standpoint, I'd say that everything we've discussed so far pretty decently summarizes the concept of music pretty well, and has it covered to a pretty basic and broad degree. But there is still one hugely important aspect of music to discuss in order to completely sum up what music actually is, and I would personally probably consider this to be the most single important element in the entire musical formula, which is the presence of emotion. Now, from time to time, I've read or have heard the question asked, is music more of an art or is it more of a craft? And if the question were to be posed directly to me, I'd say that I definitely think it's a good combination of both. Now, unlike every other element I discussed, which are all much more technical and universally applicable in terms of understanding music as a craft, the expression of emotion is an extremely personal and individual element that is, or at least should be, totally unique to each and every performer, and is the single factor that I believe is responsible for making music such a powerful form of art. And what I mean is this: if two different musicians were to perform the exact same piece of music, there would be, or should be, some audible differences in their playing that help to give each performance its own unique identity. So whereas one's knowledge of notation and rhythm would be much more noticeably present in terms of a song's technical arrangement and form and how it would appear on paper, the expression of emotion is most noticeably present in the performance itself through the techniques and timbres a performer is utilizing to express themselves with. And though it's definitely true that different playing techniques can be learned and practiced by multiple people, and different timbres can be modeled after and closely matched, it also remains true that no two performers play or sound exactly alike. So why would I suggest that the expression of emotion is the most important element when it comes to performing music or creating music? Well, firstly, because I'd say that it's the expression of emotion that really allows listeners to connect with a piece of music on such a deep and personal level. Now, of course, there are listeners out there who will be analytical and those who will be likely either impressed or unimpressed by the knowledge of musical theory displayed through a piece of music's notational and rhythmic form. But based on what I've heard personally from most people, what truly connects them to a song or a piece of music are the feelings and the emotions that they get from listening to it, and the emotions that they feel coming from the sound of the performance or the song itself. The second reason I'd suggest that expression of emotion is such an important element is because it's what allows every artist and every performance to announce their individuality and sound unique. And it's what allows for such a wide array of diversity in the musical world. Let's take a song like Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit, for example, which of course completely blew up when it released back in September of 1999, and really helped to spearhead a completely new movement in the industry at the time by making such a heavy impact on so many listeners. And it wasn't because of the song's overly complex musical arrangement, because as anyone who is familiar with it as a musician will tell you, it's pretty simple in concept, notationally and rhythmically speaking. But the raw energy that those arrangements are performed with makes it sound rough, and some might say even a little sloppy from a technical standpoint, but it also makes it sound very human and very visceral and real. And it's that visceral presence that delivers the song's energy so effectively. It was a unique and personal expression from those specific individuals and performers, which is something that can't necessarily be replicated simply on the basis of a song's technical structure. Meaning that if a band tries to cover Smells Like Teen Spirit, then they can't simply learn the notational and rhythmic arrangement and expect that it's automatically going to translate the same way. The emotions in the performances themselves have to be relative to the rough and raw emotions people hear coming from Nirvana when hearing the song in its original form in order for the song to retain its effectivity. If the emotions in the cover performance don't resonate in a relative and equally powerful way, then the performance's impact on listeners won't be effective in a relative or equally powerful way. Another reason I really want to stress the importance of the expression of emotion in music is because it's something that I unfortunately feel like in many ways is a concept that has really started to fade away in a lot of modern music, most particularly with the majority of modern Western music that's being pushed by the publishing companies of the mainstream music industry. And I think that's the main reason why people aren't connecting with newer music the same way that they used to. It seems like the expression of genuine emotion in music and the humanity that comes along with it is far too often being sacrificed for the sake of creating something that's more reflective of a perfect and consistent company product due to the overuse of convenient and automated technological features such as auto-tune and cut and paste or drag and drop methods of song arrangement, rather than attempting to create a genuine piece of music that serves as an honest representation of an artist's personal knowledge of the craft and personal expression of emotional art. Now, I'm in no way suggesting that harmony, notation, form, and rhythm are unimportant. I think they're all extremely important in music, and I strongly believe that having a strong and solid understanding of those things will only be beneficial in helping people to perform and or create great music. But I think that without the clear presence of emotion, music runs into the danger of simply becoming a cold and crafted product that leaves listeners with much to be desired, and that leaves artists sounding more and more alike and sounding less and less unique, individualized, and interesting. And by Google's very definition, if the sounds being composed do in fact become entirely void of emotion, then can it even really be considered music at that point? And if we continue to gradually hand over all expression and creativity to AI for the sake of convenience, then is it really still art? Luckily, with the platforms that currently exist outside of the mainstream industry that enable artists to retain their creative control, exercise their artistic freedom, and freely share their work, knowledge, and expertise, platforms like DistroKid and YouTube, etc., I think that it's much more likely that we'll start seeing a turnaround in that regard, and that more and more individuality and genuine emotional artistic expression will start making its way back into modern music, which will hopefully result in more and more modern music that genuinely connects and resonates with listeners in the same way that lots of great music once did. I want to thank everybody for checking out today's video. Please be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed it, and please consider subscribing so that you don't miss out on any of the other fun music-related content that I have coming up here on the channel. And be sure to check out one of these 2 videos if you're interested in doing so. Again, I want to say thank you for watching. I hope that everybody out there is doing well, and I'll see you all in the next video.